Hifuu can be viewed mostly standalone from Touhou in a lot of respects. You can read the entirety of the CD stories, and aside from a few small details, understand almost everything. But there is a big mystery attached to the CDs that connects Hifuu to Touhou more directly. It's a mystery that fans have speculated about for 2 decades now. I'm of course talking about the connections between Merry and Yukari. So I'm going to guess that everyone watching knows who Yukari is, but some people might not know about Merry. Merry is a college student with the ability to see and travel through boundaries. She's one of the members of the Secret Ceiling Club along with Renko Usami. Now let's just look at her for a second. White hat, a purple dress, blonde hair, and a boundary ability. Seems familiar, but not quite enough to justify a connection. In come the names. Lafcadio Hearn was a Greek writer who eventually moved to Japan. He was known for bringing stories about Japan to the West. In Japan, he ended up marrying a Japanese woman, and changed his name to Koizumi Yakumo. In Touhou, we have Merry Hearn and Yukari Yakumo. Zune has mentioned that this is a way Yukari and Merry are connected. In response to a question asking if Yukari and Merry are related, Zune said, "How should I say this? In the past, there was this Lafcadio Hearn. Don't think too much about this." Everything I've talked about so far are big connections, but there's one huge connection that I think gets overlooked by a lot of people. In magical astronomy, Renko and Merry talk about the idea of immortality in relation to the Horai elixir. Merry says that Renko likely wouldn't need it, as she's a nihilist, which Renko instantly refutes. "I'm practically bursting with life," she exclaims. She views the stories about the Horai elixir as stories meant to warn against greed, but that because the stories exist, the elixir must be real. Immortality doesn't imply the absence of death. Rather, it merely implies a state of existence in which the boundary between life and death disappears, and you exist as neither alive nor dead. It'd be like a bona fide necrophantasia, a practical realization of being in a world somewhere in between the world of the living and the netherworld at the same time. Renko Usami. Now, the CDs do have songs from the games, and the songs often fit the context of the stories. For example, Merry runs through the bamboo forest of the Lost during the CD version of Retribution of the Eternal Night. But nowhere besides here do we get to see the origin point of a game song's title, and this song is important to the series. The idea that Renko invents the word necrophantasia is fascinating, and ties the Hifuu pair to Yukari even more. Now, this is where I delve into my own speculation and analysis. I'm going to talk about theories and move away from strict canon. First, it's important to note that the original context of Necrophantasia from Touhou 7 is that it was meant to be a remix of Ran's theme, Necrofantasy, and the Necrophantasia itself could have been interpreted to mean the Netherworld. But thanks to 15.5, and I think magical astronomy, the song is now directly associated with Yukari, so its original intention can be put to the side in this case. Yukari is a yokai who's lived a long time, and is speculated to have lived for at least 1,000 years. Perhaps she is in Necrophantasia, as defined by Renko. But how did she get there? Well, I think it comes down to Merry making a choice. And this is assuming Yukari and Merry are the same person. Throughout the Hifuu CDs, Merry ends up traveling to Gensokyo through her dreams. Sometimes she's chased by yokai, but other times she's getting cookies from Sakia, or finding a mystical Magatama. She's able to bring things from her dreams to the real world too. Well, her real world. The Hifuu CDs mainly take place in a future version of our own world. The Hifuu world is a world where children are said to no longer smile. A world with only synthetic strawberries, and a world where the population is dramatically shrinking. It's a world that seems hopeless. But here we have Merry, dreaming of this mystical land, and eventually, she comes to accept that these aren't just dreams. This is another world she's seen. My main theory is that one day, Merry will create Gensokyo as Yukari. Hifu's setting of a failing world would give Merry motivation. If the world she lives in is doomed to die, she could be determined to make a better world. From her dreams, she sees Gensokyo, so she would know what she needs to make. And then you look at Yukari. It's speculated that she started the First Lunarian War to lose on purpose, so she could implicitly teach yokai that conquest is foolish. It's a lesson she already had instilled into her, and one she could have learned from outside world history or events. Of course, she would have learned about this stuff if she used to be Merry. If we think about the name change too, changing her into Yakumo could represent the idea of bringing one culture to another, and of moving from one world to another. And of course in this case, Merry would have gone from being Merry Berry Hearn to Yukari Yakumo. But let's assume Merry's world does die. Touhou's current timeline takes place parallel to our own, right? How could she create Gensokyo if her world is both in the future and destroyed? Well, in Perfect Memento in strict sense, which takes place during 2006, there's a memo found that was written hundreds of years before the events of the book. The memo mentions Renko, implying that Merry wrote it, but also, it implies that she can travel through time when she dreams. So, with a heightened version of her ability separate from dreams, she could have traveled to the past to create Gensokyo. And with the basis of the setting of the CDs, the idea that Merry would become Yukari and create her dream world makes sense thematically. But there's one more part of these CDs. In neo-traditionalism in Japan, Renko starts to feel lonely as Merry's power manifests more and more. A common theme of Hifuu fanworks is the idea that one day, Renko and Merry are going to be separated. Heck, in canon, Merry's been afraid of Renko forgetting her name. I think when Yukari creates Gensokyo, she won't have Renko. Whether there's some apocalypse, a power mishap, or simply dying from old age, I don't know, but I think something happens that separates the two. Yukari's known for not having many friends, and with the idea that she is Merry, she's lost two close ones, Renko and Yuyuko's original self. Under this mindset, it makes sense why she's a bit detached from others. She's probably scared. But of course, Renko's more than just a person for Merry to lose. Renko is the most important person in Merry's life. Renko is the one who goes on adventures with her, despite the world disliking the strange. Renko helps Merry appreciate her dreams. Renko presents Merry's tales with the bravado they need to be accepted by others. And Renko's hopeful. Renko's excited for the future, eager to see what Merry can do with her abilities, and lives her life gung-ho. The people of her future aren't supposed to be that hopeful. But the Usami family certainly isn't a normal family. Merry called Renko a nihilist, but really, I think Merry was projecting. I think Renko gave her hope, and even though she couldn't save her own world, she could make another one. Under the lens of Merry being Yukari, Gensokyo is built not only from Merry's dreams, but also Renko's. So at Gensokyo's hypothetical creation point, Merry, now Yukari, chooses to embrace necrophantasia to ensure that her new world can thrive. To believe in immortality is to believe in the future, and I don't think Merry could have without Renko. Merry and Renko, perhaps through a causal loop, might be the origin point of Gensokyo. And that was my interpretation of the Yukari-Hifuu connection, and by extension, how I think Gensokyo came to be. I hope you enjoyed listening to my perspective. If you haven't checked them out, give those Hifuu CDs a listen/read. They are fantastic. Happy Hifuu Day.